in the country.
Yeah, on these airwaves, he said. How about
there's
that?
definitely a case with Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje.
Okay, 918, have we ever had a top 5 class since we started tracking these things? Serious question.
That's a good question. Yeah, I believe the answer is yes. I think the Sooners had a top 5 class in 2019. That was the Spencer Rattler, Theo Weiss, Trajan Bridges.
That class worked out great, didn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. Exactly. And that kind of underscores the point. It's nice to have a top 5 class, but when you look back in retrospect, the class that is, I mean, to take this year's example, number 16, you might end up with a lot more guys in that cycle that turned out to be great football players at the University of Oklahoma than the class that was number 4. Because 2019, how many of those guys really panned out at OU? Woody Washington sure did. There were a couple others that had modestly successful OU careers, a couple others that went on to have success elsewhere. But then you move ahead to 2021, OU only signed 16 guys in that class, Tyler, but they signed such guys as Billy Bowman, Ethan Downs, Jalil Farouk, Caleb Williams, Danny Stutzman. So it's about the hit rate. Regardless of how many guys you sign, how many of these guys can you develop into high-end football players, and how many have the potential to take that next step of their own volition?
By the way, 2019, they did finish 5 on Rivals, and then I looked at 2005 randomly, and they finished number 3 in the country in 2005. Nick Harris in that class, Reggie Smith in that class, very good player. Joaquin Iglesias was in that class too. CJ Ayu, who else was in there? Malcolm Kelly was in that class. Alan Patrick was in that class. Brody Eldridge, and some good players there in 2005. Just a couple that I looked at there. I saw a lot of winners and losers from signing day. LSU was listed as a loser on signing day. They had a kid from the state of Louisiana go to USC. Sounds like LSU kind of got outbid for that one. Was it Jakeem Stewart?
Jakeem Stewart,
yeah. I'm thinking of.
LSU lost their elite cornerback commit, Cade Phillips, to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Kelly had a tough full signing.
There were some winners on the board as well. Oklahoma wasn't listed yesterday as a signing day winner or loser, but if you had to go one way or the other, I know you lose Cortez Mills, but that wasn't all that shocking, and I think that you can. I think that you can be okay after that one. I definitely think that you can be okay. I don't know if OU was a winner or a loser on signing day. If I had to pick between the two, I guess I'd say that they were a winner because they kept Michael Fasusi in the class. They're definitely a loser, and in the loser category if Fasusi flips to Texas or Texas A&M. But that didn't happen.
It did not. There was no drama on signing day. Actually, the only drama was good drama. Flipped a quarterback that has never been to campus, Tyler.
That was amazing.
Didn't even own a piece of OU apparel until Tuesday night. The Jet New story. Like, it would be so cool if he turned out to be really, really good at OU. And we can look back on this as one of the signing day storylines that was, kind of cool, kind of unique at the time, but that didn't really register as seismic. But with the benefit of hindsight, like, man, very thankful that one went down the way it did.
I hope Jet New and his family did not look at our Twitter comments yesterday.
Really?
When I posted about it. Or I way more Twitter comments than Facebook.
Was it a bunch of 3-star you?
Is that where we're at now? Is that where we're at, Parker, as a program, celebrating getting a 3-star quarterback? How sad the University of Oklahoma we're celebrating this. Which, hey, got no clue if Jet New ends up becoming a great quarterback here or not. I think it's very helpful just in terms of numbers overall with where you're at right now at quarterback that you got a guy in 2025. But can we just appreciate it for what it is, if nothing else, that you took Oklahoma State's quarterback in less than 24 hours? That definitely made me laugh. And also, have you had better success over the course of the past 25 years with 2- and 3-star quarterbacks than you've had 5-star quarterbacks?
Consider for a moment.
Yes, the answer.
That since the legendary 3-year run of Mayfield, Murray, Hurts, Oklahoma's starting quarterbacks have been a 5-star, a 5-star, a 3-star, and a 5-star. Who's been the best of them by a good margin, Tyler?
It's seriously, that's kind of the point I'm making there. Sooners Shane in Springfield, I say winner because 4 good offensive linemen is what we need. 402 says our friends down in South Austin are touting their recruiting class. I'm driving. Can one of y'all look up their past 15-year recruiting classes which I believe were pretty good, except when you compare it to the record up until last year. My point is, recruiting classes don't equal wins.
Yes, correct. In the last 15 years, no one has done less with more than the University of Texas. And I went 8 listener says, how big are Jet News hands?
That's after the whole Jackson Arnold discussion, right? People like to point that out.
I get the sense that's gonna. I get the sense that's gonna be a running joke for quite a while on the text line. The size of Jackson Arnold's hands.
Yeah. 580. I have asked this question before. Is the small recruiting class a tool to prepare for the 85 limit?
Well, the 85 limit is already in place. That's not what you have to worry about. What you have to worry about is that absolute roster sizes are getting capped at 105 players. Yeah. So there's going to need to be there'll need to be a little bit of a culling of the fold, but I think the reason why you take a small recruiting class, a smaller than usual recruiting class this year, and I want to make clear, this is a conversation that we've been having for upwards of a year now, Tyler. Oklahoma always planned on taking a smaller class in 2025. I don't think they initially planned on it being this small. The original numbers that were cited to me were 20 to 23. They wind up with 18. But this was always intended to be a smaller class for OU. And the reason being is that the transfer portal being what it is, you got to set aside a good portion of your budget every year and scholarships to go find guys that can help your program right now.
A&M is the 2019 of LSU of doing less with more. Cherokee Sooners says Jet News got some wiggle to him. 405, how many stars did Kyler have? Kyler had 5 stars coming out of Allen, Texas. Now, you didn't get him out of high school in Allen, Texas, but clearly you got him via the transfer portal after a very short time at Texas A&M. 405-651-3439, Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Keep the text coming there. We'll get to the John Mateer discussion rather quickly, and we'll kind of make that a full segment coming up next. What do you think about the first date for Ben Arbuckle? Clearly it worked out, but what do you think about a big-time football game as a first date idea? Strong? Risky? Is it like the hiring of Ben Arbuckle? High risk, high reward? The first date at a football game?
Feels like she's got to be a certain type of gal, doesn't it?
Yeah. Someone was texting in yesterday, oh, he fell in love when in the first quarter she yelled out, run the damn ball!
Do we know what game it was?
It was the OU Notre Dame game in 2012.
Okay.
Unfortunately, OU lost that one.
Yes, I do recall that. Everybody around here remembers that as the night James Harden was traded.
Yeah.
I don't, because I don't care about the NBA, but
yeah. I mean, I remember that as a piece of the game, but I'm with you. I don't care about the NBA either, but I do remember that happening.
And there's the news.
Uh-oh.
Nick Anderson is entering the transfer portal.
Yeah, there's some happening.
So there you go.
Who put that one out? Did Hayes Fawcett put that out?
That was Matt Zenitz of 24/7 Sports.
Yikes. Initial response is bummer. Also, a thought is, all the training staff rumors that have existed, and I think a lot of the training staff rumors have kind of centered around his situation. Is this because of that? Like, why is Nick Anderson, who came here out of high school, had a huge moment in the OU Texas game last year. His brother played here. His brother works here. I think that this is going to be very, very surprising for a lot of people. Can we pinpoint the exact reason? I mean, it is like the rumors that we've been talking about, are these – is that why this is happening right now?
Don't take a Rhodes Scholar to put 2 and 2 together here, Tyler. Now, does it?
Well, it does not. That is disappointing, man. It's really disappointing. Now, I always say this, that if someone enters into the portal, it does not mean for sure that they're gone. They can get in the portal, come back to the school that they're at. But initially, I don't feel like that's going to be the case for Nick Anderson. And you had huge expectations for him this year, high hopes, and clearly it didn't work out because of the entire injury situation that was there. Yeah, that one's tough. That's a tough hit. Okay, 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We'll get more into that news breaking that Nick Anderson will enter into the transfer portal. We'll talk about John Mateer and a whole lot more coming up next right here on The Ref. Down apple pie liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the yums because Spike was safe, Horns Down apple pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Horns Down celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Streak, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com. Homeless and Thune, live on the Ref for the Homeless Sooner fans. Tyler McComas, Parker Thune, Ref Army. Listening worldwide via the free KREF app. Just search KREF in the App Store. Cincinnati, Ohio's tuned in today. Lexington, Kentucky. Shreveport, Louisiana, Austin, Texas, Kansas City, Missouri, Madison, Wisconsin, Fort Collins, Colorado, Woodward, Oklahoma, all tuned in today. K-Ref Army Locators brought to you by Horns Down Apple Pie. Check out all the locations. You can find Horns Down Apple Pie at drinkhornsdown.com. That's drinkhornsdown.com. Breaking news, in case you're just now joining us, it is being reported that OU wide receiver Nick Anderson will enter into the transfer portal. Definitely the most shocking name so far, right? I don't think anyone was shocked about Jaquez Petaway. I don't think anyone was necessarily too surprised even about Jackson Arnold. But I think for a lot of people, Nick Anderson entering into the transfer portal is going to be a big surprise. And there's been a lot of rumors around Nick Anderson, man, really since the early stages of the season. There were rumors that he was going to sit out the entire year and try his luck in the NFL draft. There were rumors about the training staff, everything else. Best you can tell, why is Nick Anderson planning on entering into the transfer portal?
Well, Tyler, it's not because of Emmett Jones. It's not because of Brent Venables. Not because Nick Anderson doesn't have great relationships and friendships and bonds at the University of Oklahoma. Certainly not for lack of opportunity, because he's wide receiver 1 and has been since like game 4 of the 2023 season for this program when healthy. Tyler, the reason Nick Anderson is transferring is because he was mishandled.
Yeah, sure.
He was mishandled. His injury situation was mishandled. And ultimately, the trust eroded there from everything that I was told. By the end of the process, there just wasn't enough trust left to be able to salvage this thing between Nick Anderson and Oklahoma, because he should not have come back against Tennessee.
I mean, he lasted what, 2 drives?
It lasted all of 5 snaps, Tyler. And he re-aggravated the injury that he had suffered. And the injury that he had suffered was not an insignificant one. We got some clarity from Brent Venables long after the fact on what exactly was the nature of that injury. But this all comes back to a lack of trust, and it's completely understandable. And Nick Anderson, I want to make it very clear, did not quit on this team. Nick Anderson is not soft. Nick Anderson's an incredible football player that has been through the ringer and has been through more than he should have been through with regard to injuries. He will absolutely have his pick of the litter, given what he has been through medically.
Big time.
He will be able to go anywhere in the country, and more than likely, he will be excelling in another uniform next season.
Yeah, just a very unfortunate ending. I mean, we saw high-level great moments like in the Cotton Bowl 2 years ago when he caught the game-winning touchdown pass. I mean, that's going to be the moment everyone thinks about 5, 10, 15 years from now when you think about Nick Anderson and OU. But you just felt like there was so much more. You know, if he stays healthy, if he kind of recognizes his true potential at a wide receiver, everyone was really excited about him from day one just because of the length and the athleticism that he has. It just – I mean, I hate to say it never worked out for him at OU. I mean, it did at times when he was healthy. He had some high-level moments, but an unfortunate end, that's for sure. Okay, to the text line we go, and a lot of people got a lot of different opinions on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. He will be hurt wherever he goes, says Big Rich in OKC. Zach from Guthrie says Nick Anderson, bum. 2-star Christian Chicago, he literally just quit on his team. Angry Ronnie, I keep reading or hearing about medical staff. WTF is the deal with these clowns. So fire the team doctors and get new ones, says Johnny from Yukon. If that's the case, then heads should roll on the training staff, says Dave from Norman. Fire the medical staff, says Cherokee Sooner. Mississippi Pot Rose says, oh no, a guy that played 6 games. Oh, you can find a guy to play 6 games in 3 years. Your best ability is your availability. One more. Brad from the 405. I'm such a Sooner fan, I already unfollowed Nick Anderson on Instagram. Not that he cares.
Wow. Listen, Nick Anderson's not a bum. Nick Anderson didn't quit. Trey's on the text line saying, y'all can spin it all you want. He quit just like every other receiver that didn't play but could have. It's a gross misunderstanding of what happened. Nick Anderson was far more injured than anybody would care to Realize or acknowledge.
Yeah. That just it sucks. It's unfortunate. I think for both parties, the way that this year because, we were talking about Nick Anderson right there with Deion Burks, that's your 1-2 duo, and that could be a very special 1-2 duo at wide receiver. And really for both those guys, it was, you were never really able to see it, especially with Nick Anderson. But you think that he'll have some really nice offers out in the open market, and I would absolutely agree with that. Nick Anderson will have a lot of options out there. I know that he's been hurt. I know that he has to prove that he has to be healthy. I 100% agree with all that. But he'll have a lot of big-time suitors out there. He will. But just, yeah. This is clearly the one, and you're looking at the text line just like I am. Like, Jackson Arnold yesterday, right around this time, got a lot of reaction. There's a lot of people, I almost feel like with more anger with this one than the Jackson Arnold decision yesterday. There's a lot of anger right now on the text line. And it's not just all aimed on one person, not on just Nick Anderson. It's the training staff. It's others as well as to why this is going to be the case. So you are always going to be active in the transfer portal with wide receivers. Parker, you're definitely going to be active in the transfer portal now with wide receivers. And not just one guy, I would think multiple guys at this point. Because who knows, out of the remaining 4 that were sidelined this year, how many of those guys come back?
It's going to be... And here's the thought, like mid-season, the thought, Tyler, was, okay, this year is what it is. You pack it in, you bring back all these guys that you thought you were going to have to comprise a standout receiver room in 2024, and the timeline just gets shifted back a year, and they're all full go in 2025. And I'll tell you this much, Tyler, this is not the last one of that group. This is not the only one of that group that's going to be outbound.
I mean, we're not even officially to the day that the portal opens, right? We still got a few days until we actually get to Monday when it really opens. So, yeah, I may hear something else today. May hear something tomorrow, something over the weekend, next week, but not the last name that you'll see. No doubt about that. Okay, man, a lot of text are rolling in right now. Farouk and Burks are gone as well. You will see, says a texter from the 918. Big Rich at OKC. The best things that Nick did at OU, the Texas touchdown and the podcast. GB from the 918. Understand. Actually, can you shed some light on what all the talk is about the medical staff? I mean, I think that we've done that. It's just, maybe in Nick Anderson's case, the best way to say it is a misevaluation of what the actual injury was.
That's 100% correct. Misevaluation, which contributed to the continual erosion of trust between Anderson and the medical staff.
Oh, boy. Yeah, man. I mean, I can't even keep up with all the texts right now that are rolling in. I'll try to get to as many as possible because I know you guys got thoughts. Patrick says, I told myself I was going to stay off the internet for a while today, and then I get text that Nick Anderson's in the portal. I'm so sick of this. Let's just get all walk-ons at all positions. You want 105 Jacob Jordans out there? 105 Jacob Jordans with all the heart in the world, most heart in college football. Yeah, well, I mean, get used to it. This is the day and age of college football. OU's not the only one that will have surprising transfer portal injuries. It's going to go on all over the sport. Steve from Tuttle, the Anderson brothers are/were good players, but were hurt a lot during their careers. Papa E says, let me go to Papa E. Guess Anderson to the portal. Man. Guess Anderson in the portal frees up a scholarship for my favorite Sooner, Jacob Jordan. Jacob Jordan scholarship territory now with all the wide receivers leaving.
Madonna from Lubbock has checked in. This sucks! I'm with the texters that said to fire the medical staff.
How about this, man? Let me just throw this at you blindly. Who was the way too early favorite to be OU's leading wide receiver in 2025? And I swear if you say Bauer Sharp, don't you dare say Bauer Sharp. Who's the leader for OU's leading receiver right now? 2025. Ben Arbuckle year 1. I mean, that's really difficult, isn't it?
It really is difficult. Like, shoot, what should my answer? Okay, here's what I'll say. I think it's a guy that's not currently on the
Well,
roster.
okay, and
How
that's
about
probably
that?
where I was going to go with is hopefully you're able to find someone with some Power 4 experience, right, that comes in with some numbers and is able to stay healthy. That would be nice. But your leading receiver next year may not even be on the roster right now. Think about this, man. Your leading passer, I would say that the odds are pretty decent right now on December 5th that your leading passer and your leading receiver are currently not on the roster. Would you bet against that at this point?
I would not bet against that. In fact, I might bet on that. I probably would bet on that.
I mean, it's just another way to say how huge of a month this is for OU in the transfer portal. They've got to go find a good quarterback. They've got to go out and find at least one really good wide receiver and maybe multiple good receivers because there is so much unknown, especially right now, at that wide receiver spot, man. So I don't think that Nick Anderson necessarily craters the entire season for next year. Like, if you were banking on Nick Anderson being back for next year, I don't think that this takes it, I don't think it's like a 2-win change or anything like that. Clearly, I think it's disappointing to a lot of people, but you're gonna have to go find some dudes, some proven commodities in the transfer portal. Eric, the Mets fan, says, "How about a couple of Washington State wide receivers? Let's go." You just want to bring the whole Wazoo offense and just kind of run it back with Mateer and Arbuckle. Just bring the Wazoo guys over. You're one in the SEC.
Pac-2 Sooners.
Mm-hmm.
A 918 listener said Parker's answer tells Farouk is gone. I did not say that. Here's my thought on Jalil Farouk, and this has always been my thought on Jalil Farouk. Jalil Farouk isn't a wide receiver one. He's a good wide receiver. He's not the type of guy that has the skill set of the top wide receiver in a given offense. He's somebody that plays well off of other dudes. He himself is not a consistent matchup nightmare that you look for in a guy like, for instance, a healthy Deion Burks, the Deion Burks that we saw at the very beginning of the year.
Yeah. If we're having this same discussion in a month's time, and I ask you the exact same question, hey, who do you think the leading wide receiver is in 2025? And after seeing everything that's happened in the portal, if your answer is Jalil Farouk, in all due respect, like, he's a nice player, but I echo all the thoughts that you just had. You need a big time dude at receiver in the portal. I don't think that we want to be sitting here in a month's time and all of us thinking that Jalil Farouk is going to be wide receiver 1 next year. And I see a lot of Micah Hudson out there. I'm sure Texas is going to have a great chance at Micah Hudson. LSU, Texas A&M. I guess I just wouldn't tab OU as one of the early front runners for the Texas Tech transfer, Micah Hudson. And he didn't play all that much at Texas Tech last year, right? I don't feel like he got very much playing time at all. At least that was the case for the first half of the season. I didn't monitor much Tech football in the second half, but I don't think Micah Hudson was playing all that much.
Yeah, people clearly are just now tuning in. A bunch of people, I guess, turned on their radios when they got the Nick Anderson news because somebody asked, do you think they processed Nick Anderson out?
No.
Do you process somebody like Nick Anderson out? No, you do not.
No.
Again, Nick Anderson's injury situation this season was mishandled. And it like, imagine what it takes for a program kid with family ties to the university, a brother that's on staff with Sooner Sports Properties, and a guy that's been 10 toes down for OU since the moment he got here to hit the transfer portal. It has nothing to do with Brent Venables, nothing to do with Emmett Jones. It has everything to do with the fact that when you've been through what Nick Anderson has been through physically, you have to be in the hands of people that you can trust to get you right again if you suffer another injury down the road.
0 catches last year. Hopefully we can replace that, says a texter from the 801. Maggie says, talk to Nick Anderson in the past. The kid is awesome. Love the play. Wanted him to play. He will be missed. Cherokee Sooner with a great idea. Throw money at LSU's medical staff and fire these quacks.
I don't know what they did to Garrett Nussmeier, but boy.
Came back, he's an NFL quarterback all of a sudden.
Yeah, he looked better after the injury than he did before it.
308, texture from Nebraska, really surprised about Nick Anderson. He may be a great kid, I'm sure he is, but his decision seems really disloyal to the coaching staff that carried him. Totally understand Jackson's decision, but Nick leaving is a punk move. The entire situation makes me reevaluate my fandom in college football. Not sure I have the heart for it anymore. Yeah, it's tough news for a lot of people today. Nick Anderson, in case you missed it, about 15, 20 minutes ago, announced that he intends to enter into the upcoming transfer portal starting on Monday. All right, more of your text, even though we can't keep up with them. Trying our best. Maybe we'll get into John Mateer. I don't know. Whole rundown sheet, you kind of crumble it up and throw it away when news like this breaks. We'll hit more OU football next right here on The Ref. Down apple pie liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the umps because Spike was safe, Horns Down apple pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Horns Down celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Street, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com. Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in Reno, bringing this hour of Locked In with McComas and Thune. Dorsey Jones is family owned and operated. Established in 2020, but many of their employees have been there for more than 20 years. They sell Buicks and GMCs, which are some of the best trucks and SUVs on the road. Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. Nick Anderson, report out there now that he intends to enter into the transfer portal, and you guys got a lot of thoughts on the text line. I checked during the break. We're north of 400 texts this hour, so if we don't get to yours, just understand that there's a lot of texts rolling in right now. Tyler from Ada says, is Malachi Coleman a realistic option for OU now, the Nebraska?
Yes, he is a realistic option, and the more guys that hit the transfer portal at the wide receiver position, and as I mentioned, Nick Anderson won't be the last of them by any means. Obviously, the more that Oklahoma is going to need in the portal. And in Malachi Coleman, admittedly, it is a bit of a gamble to take on a guy that has contributed at the collegiate level but hasn't done a ton. But he's got the size and he's got the speed, 6'5", 215 pounds, and runs a 10.4 100-meter dash. So I guess it's just tantalizing to think about what you could unlock in a guy like that with Emmett Jones developing him.
580 possibility Nick Anderson would come back with a change in the medical staff. I think we're probably too far down the road at this point with that. And
Too far gone.
And look, I get it, guys. He was injured. He wasn't available a whole lot. But I just kind of know what the transfer portal is, or at least think I have a pretty good idea of it. I don't know what Nick Anderson was getting NIL-wise at OU. But I'm sure he's going to get – I know he's going to get some very nice NIL offers to go somewhere else and play college football. I'm not going to be shocked at all if Nick Anderson is at a big-time Power 4 program making a lot of money next year, because I think everyone else sees what we've seen now with Nick Anderson, is that when he is healthy and when he is available, and there is an if there, but he's got all the tools to be a big-time wide receiver if he can just stay healthy and have his best season. So there's going to be some nice offers out there to him. 918 is saying that was not the real Garrett Nussmeier after the injury. That was Eli Manning in disguise. Eli Manning would have at least thrown you the football once or twice, though, right? Garrett Nussmeier did not really do that after he came back from the injury. Okay, S. Rob Booman. So does Nick Anderson think he will have less soft tissue injuries by transferring to another football program? Maybe he thinks that it'll be evaluated a lot better at another football program. Maybe he thinks he needs a fresh start, like Jackson Arnold.
Mississippi Pyro said, Parker said Coleman hasn't done a ton, so it would be a 1-for-1 for Nick Anderson. Have we forgotten the part where Nick Anderson had 800 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2023 and was OU's best receiver? Are we just completely looking past this? This is a loss that hurts.
Oklahoma will be fine without Nick Anderson, says a texter for the 918. The portal is ruining college football, says Larry from Cashin. 918, you two are acting like the world is collapsing. Are we acting like the world's collapsing? I don't think so.
I don't think so, no.
I think I just said last segment, actually, that I don't think that this craters the next season. It's a loss that is unfortunate if he were to have his best season next year, but no.
You would rather have Nick Anderson than not have Nick Anderson. It's not the end of the world, but it's okay to acknowledge that this is not a guy you wanted to lose.
One more, Big Rich in OKC, in all caps. Elijah Thomas, play him. I wouldn't mind if the number one player in the state of Oklahoma, and he'll have a chance, depending on what happens in the portal, to get out on the field right away. Speaking of the transfer portal, I guess there's a report out for Jackson Arnold. I think On3 is who put it out. The teams to watch right now for Jackson Arnold, at least early on, Georgia, Auburn, and Mississippi State are three of the schools to watch for Jackson Arnold. So 3 SEC schools, and of course one of those SEC schools is coming to Norman next year in the Auburn Tigers. So like Nick Anderson, what we've been talking about, and this shouldn't surprise anyone, Jackson Arnold's going to have some options too via the transfer portal. And reportedly at least 3 SEC schools are interested in him thus far. Didn't he grow up a Georgia fan? Didn't he let us know about that this year at some point?
He did grow up a Georgia fan. Yeah, he's never been shy about that. I don't know if it makes much sense for Georgia to go after him. And I don't know what their level of trust is in Jaden Rashada, but again, they just brought in Jaden Rashada, who was also a 5-star in the 2023 class. And for Jackson Arnold, even if you're confident you can beat out Jaden Rashada, would you still go to Georgia? Because, you don't know that for a fact. You don't know for a fact you're going to beat him out. You might be confident, but you don't know that for a fact. And there will be schools that can guarantee or that do guarantee Jackson Arnold a starting job when they make their pitch to him in the portal. So I don't think Georgia is a landing spot that seems to add up on paper for Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, much more likely a Mississippi State getting back with Jeff Lebby. Though they've got, Van Buren, the young quarterback this year, who was just a freshman that showed some promise at times. And then maybe potentially Auburn. Auburn's going to be shopping in the transfer portal for a quarterback. Peyton Thorne's done at Auburn, right?
He is, yes.
Yeah, he has no more years of eligibility remaining. So this is a big, 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 big year for Hugh Freeze on the Plains. And they need a good quarterback via the transfer portal. And we'll see if wouldn't that be wild? It's the new era of college football where you thought the future of your program was going to be Jackson Arnold. And then in year 2 of the SEC, he could potentially be on the other sideline playing against you in a conference game. What a wild time that we're in, man. What a wild time.
A 405 text line says, once in a while the text line reminds me of the ridiculous fans we have in the OU fan base. Wish the kid well and move on, and BV we trust.
Yeah, we've had some very passionate responses like every day on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. 405 says, please be Georgia. I don't want them to be the next Alabama dynasty. Jackson Arnold would keep them grounded. Jeez, man. And then a lot of guesses right now as to who's going to be the leading wide receiver next year. Zion Kearney is on that list, and someone else was saying, why can't Jaden Gibson be the leading wide receiver next year? Jaden Gibson could be the leading wide receiver next year. He's got to come back from a major injury. That's a big question mark. And 2, is he going to be one of those injured players that elects to go elsewhere and kind of reset their career?
Derek in Wichita Falls says, "Sir, there's a 0% chance that even if he re-aggravated his tear versus Tennessee, he couldn't come back for the entire year. He knew he was gone and threw in the towel." That's just not true, okay? And listen, I'm not going to go into all of the details of this story. That is for Nick Anderson and his family to do if they so choose. But Nick Anderson was not faking an injury. He was not acting soft. He did not throw in the towel so he could hit the transfer portal at season's end. This kid is a Sooner and has been one. His brother played at Oklahoma. His brother's on staff. His family loves the University of Oklahoma. This is not what Nick Anderson and his folks wanted to happen. And Nick Anderson is certainly not the type of football player that's just going to say, all right, I got hurt again, screw it, I'm finished this season. No, his season was over after the Tennessee game, and it was not because he's a wuss.
Yeah. Any shot at Jonte Cook? He was sensational in high school. I think we said from the beginning of that OU was not going to be interested in Jonte Cook, which he announced that like 2 or 3 weeks ago that he's leaving Texas. Frisco Sooner, if healthy, Nick Anderson is a badass and early round NFL pick. This is not an no big deal type of situation.
And everybody is now asking, okay, Parker, then why is Nick leaving? I've said it like 5 times in the last 20 minutes. Nick Anderson's injury got mishandled. That is why he's leaving. There was an erosion of trust. The trust no longer exists. He's going to be able to transfer to pretty much any school in the country, and he'll probably be having great success at whatever school he lands at because he's an extraordinarily gifted football player.
Well, look, I want all the best for Nick Anderson. I do. I hope he has the season that we've been, waiting on him to have, and he stays healthy and all that. But God, don't let it be at an SEC school that OU has to play next year. Don't let him come back to Norman next year and torch you for 2 or 3 touchdowns, and that'd really suck. No thanks. I'm out on that one. Brad from the 405, if Nick Anderson never caught that game winner against Texas, he may have been in the portal a year prior, IMO. I don't know about that, Brad. I don't think that he would have. Clearly, that's the biggest moment of his career, but Nick Anderson was good outside of that game-winning reception against Texas last year. I'm not saying that he was elite. I'm not saying he was one of the best wide receivers in college football when he was healthy in 2023. But even without that game winner, I don't think that he's in the portal last year. I think that he's on the team this year because like we've been saying now for 20, 25 minutes, Nick Anderson's not getting into the portal because, he was down on the depth chart or not getting opportunities. Sounds like Nick Anderson was getting into the portal because of the, lack of trust there, or the training staff situation, as we've talked about now. So I think that he would have been back even without that big moment. Sausage Sooner says, what did it say here? Sausage Sooner, I'm so legit pissed about that.
Oh, and the previous text was F our medical staff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
that was the other part. A 405 listener says, Anderson is going to Ohio State so they can run directly into Michigan's D-line.
Yeah, not great. Not a great game plan for the Ohio State on Saturday. Which they for as much as the unproven commodity, that what we've heard from a lot of people on the Ben Arbuckle, and I mean he's been calling plays for 3 years. He is still very young, but was Chip Kelly? Was he the offensive coordinator that's been hired recently with like the most well-known track record out of anyone here recently? And all he did was run straight into the middle of Michigan's defensive line, lose 2 games in the regular season, and everyone's about to fire Ryan Day. My point, the proven commodity doesn't always work out as the best hire, and Chip Kelly could be proof of that this year at Ohio State.
A 714 listener says, I'm curious why you're reticent to name and shame our medical staff. Well, I'm not going to name names because I haven't been given names. And again, I'm doing my best not to paint with too broad a brush and say all of those people suck and need to be burned at the stake. And I'm also not trying to point the finger at any one individual because I don't think it falls on any one individual. So, look, again, if Nick Anderson and his family ever choose to address this situation, that's their prerogative, and they're going to be able to provide more clarity than anybody surrounding that situation.
I do have this question now, especially with the news that Nick Anderson's in the portal, and the thought that of the injured wide receivers or draft-eligible wide receivers that were also injured, he may not be the last one that's on your roster next year. And I'm sure the staff had some sort of an inkling that this could be the case, at least I would hope. Is there a point where you regret the decisions that were made at wide receiver in the 2025 class? And I think that you know what I'm getting at here. Like, you made a decision, it sounds like you made a decision late at wide receiver to say, hey, these guys have had offers, but we may go tell them to look elsewhere just because, here's what we think that we're going to have numbers-wise at wide receiver or what we're looking at. Is there a chance that more guys aren't here than they previously thought, and you may regret letting one of those 2 wide receivers, walk away?
No, I don't think so. I think Oklahoma had their reasons for parting ways with the 2 guys that they said, hey, don't come, go find somewhere else. Those guys were the physically smallest wide receivers in the class, and 2 guys that probably weren't going to contribute much, if at all, as true freshmen. And you go back to the conversation we had at the beginning of the week, Tyler, and it's 100% true. Like, this team has to win in 2025. This program has to win in 2025, or else these coaches don't get retained. And so, if there are guys on the roster taking up scholarship spots and they're just sitting on the sideline and they can't help you, well, then that diminishes your chances of returning in 2026 and beyond.
One more for the 405. If what you are saying about the medical staff is true, whoever hired them should be fired. Us Sooner Club members / season ticket holders or investors, OU's duty to us was breached. So, portal madness. And the portal doesn't officially open until Monday. Buckle up. Going to be a wild ride throughout the month of December. Doesn't have to all be bad, though. You could definitely get some very, very good news via the transfer portal in December, and that's what needs to happen. But going to be a wild, wild month for OU football. No doubt about that. Has been already. All right, The Rush is coming up next. Bob Stoops will join us today at 4:45. Keep it locked on the Ref. Orange Down Apple Pie Liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural, 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the Yums because Spike was safe, Horns Down Apple Pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Horns Down celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Streak, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com.